Welcome, 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 welcome. Happy Sunday, everybody. I am super excited. Let me show beloved's name. I'm here with ShoShan Yogii. What does ShoShan mean?
ShoShan means lotus. It's a lotus flower. The lotus that grows through the Egyptian Nile is where it came from. And even though it grows through muddy waters, it represents beauty and strength in the midst of whatever is going on around it. So finding your peace in the midst of any storm, which I had to practice many years to accomplish that, you know. So I was drawn to the name, and because it fit my my life and who I am. I'm a Scorpio too, so if that gives you any sort of indication as to the similation between the Scorpio and the lotus flower, they both have their own beauty, but they also have like this very deep spiritual sort of mysteriousness about them, I thought it was the perfect simulation to who I was and who I am now as well.
You are the first ShoShan I've ever met, so it's very, very fitting. You are so beautiful and have such a beautiful feminine way of expressing yourself. So you are a continuation of a series that I've had with some of my favorite people, with some of my friends. Oh, there's Candace Capra. You are part of a series I've had with my friends that I call the masters of movement, people who have a lifestyle of moving their bodies, because, you know, no matter where you are in the Northern Hemisphere, like, it's been cold.
Yeah.
And I know if me, you know, the high priestess of holistic beauty is like gaining weight from snacking and not moving her body, other people must be having the same issue. So I am really, for myself, inviting people to like get up and get ready for summer throughout the spring. So for me, the missing link is moving my body. So have you always been in this practice of yoga? What is it actually that you do? Because there's a lot of yoga going on. What type of yoga do you do? And tell me about what you do, what your mastery of movement is.
I actually am certified in both Hatha yoga as well as Vinyasa yoga. So, of course, over the years, my practice has transformed in many ways, and it all was due to, you know, any stage of womanism that I was in at the time. So I just understood that my body desired, you know, different movement from time to time. And of course, Vinyasa yoga is more of a flowy, sort of feminine flow of movement, which is what I originally ended up adopting as a daily practice. And of course, you know, like I say, my practice, it keeps changing. It's changed here in the last 2 to 3 years. So it's even like sort of like more restorative movement, but still on the Vinyasa side. But even with a little bit of sort of African vibe to it, you know. I think that as I have, my body has matured, I believe that it was important for me to begin to listen to what it wanted. You know, it doesn't desire the same movement it did when I was in my 30s. So, so Vinyasa yoga is what I practice, and I put my own little twist on it, of course. So that's the form of practice that I use. Not daily. I use it 4 times a week.
Okay, And how long?
Well, listen, I started out like I was like the quintessential yogi that was like on the mat for like 45 minutes to an hour and a half. I don't do that anymore. My body and my energy, my spirit doesn't desire to be on there as long. So I'm on there like 25 minutes max. And the only the actual only form of movement that I am doing for more than 25 minutes is actually Pilates. And I just adapted that into my lifestyle. I would say about 2 months. It's been 2 months now since I've been practicing Pilates as well. But I've come to understand that the body needs a little bit of more variety in movement. If you notice that as the body matures, as women, we begin to lose like sort of strength, especially in our core area, you know? And that became something that was more important to me about keeping strong, because, you know, I always feel like the core is the foundation. And without a strong core, whether that's metaphysically or physically, when you don't have a strong core, you know, everything evolves around your core movement, and how life flows, you know. If you have a strong foundation, then movement becomes effortless, you know. So yeah, so that's the gist of like movement in terms of what I've adapted. I just don't stay on the mat as long as I used to. For me, it's not necessary. And it's just me honoring my body where I am in my life right now. But it still gives me what I need. You know, it still nourishes me in my mind, body, and spirit. So
I have a question for you. I have more than one question, but one question right now. So you're the first non-air fire sign that I've talked to. And I noticed that there was like most of the people that I know that have a lifestyle, like that do it, like it's just part of their life, are fire air signs.
mm-hmm.
Do you find any kind of connection between someone's sun sign and how they rhythm in terms of moving their bodies? Like, why yoga instead of like spinning for you? Like, what do you think there's a connection to, like the sun sign?
I do. I mean, you know, because I am a water sign, and I feel more grounded when I'm utilizing like slower movement. Like I've never ever been a runner. I've never gravitated toward that. Not Pilates, but any sort of aerobics. I've never ever veered toward any form of movement in that way. I've just never liked it. You know what I'm saying? The whole jiggle up and down thing, you know. I like the whole, and it has a lot to do with like sort of my personality too, because everything is like sort of neat,
so feminine.
And so I like a more sophisticated form of movement and control. You know, it's a control thing too. I think, you know, like I still have everything moderately in my control, you know. Nothing else is like jiggling around out of place. But yeah, I just like it nicely tight and neat.
So anyone who's watching, so let's see who we have on here. We have Quentin Love, another master movement, Candace, Jan Lewis. Do any of you engage in yoga? And if so, what school of yoga, what style of yoga? So ShoShan, tell me, like there's normally a transformation story or a healing journey with people who are in healing positions. Like what was kind of your rock bottom? Like what got you into this form of healing, really? You really are a healer.
Yeah, I actually started practicing yoga in right after I had my last child, which I was like 30 years old, you know.
Right.
And I wasn't teaching or anything. I actually practiced many, many years before I actually delved into the teaching aspect of it. But my whole story was, my background, before I became a healer, so to speak, I have my degree in interior design. So I was a designer for many, many years. And it was a stressful, I mean, I absolutely loved it. I mean, but it was stressful, that people aspect of it. So dealing with people and personalities and things of that nature. I loved my job, but at the end of the day, I would always come home just extremely tense, You know, the body was just really, really tense. And, you know, and after your body, if you're familiar with, you know, what tension feels like in the shoulders and, you know, in your neck and in your back. And if you've experienced it, you notice that if it becomes chronic, it hurts, you know, it becomes like, it hurts, it's bothersome. And so, a client of mine's, she actually told me about, you know, yoga and said, you may want to try it, you know, because it will give you that sense of relief that you don't get with that lasting relief that you don't get with a massage. You know, you can go get a massage but at some point, you know, you are right back where you started. So that was part of it. And later on, I went through a divorce. So that led me to the practice in a way of healing myself. So it had many forms of, I was introduced to it from many forms of healing. Yeah. And once I began to actually utilize the process as a healing modality, that's when it really began to change my life, you know, in so many ways, and dealing with and finding out a lot about who I was as a woman, because that's the one beauty about yoga, is that it's a truth serum. It's a truth serum. And when I was on the mat, I would experience bouts of emotion, because that's what it does. It, you know, it hits you when you least expect it, and bouts of emotion, and it makes you face things like you can't, even as it relates to your body, and if you can, how deeply you can go into a pose. It really is telling about how flexible you are, how strong you are, and that's on the mental, the physical, and the spiritual aspect. Yeah. So it was introduced to me through a client, and ever since I've been practicing.
So let's say you have a client who like eats fast food. She's like 50 pounds overweight. She's going through divorce. She has no money. She's got fibroids, like just like the worst situation. Like what kind of protocol would you put her on? Like where would you begin with someone that's just really going through it and completely out of balance? Like, where does she start?
Well, diet plays such a very heavy, important part of my lifestyle in terms of cleaner eating, you know, because I do believe that not everybody will embrace a plant-based diet, but what I would suggest is a cleaner diet. I don't eat meat, but, you know, everybody is not interested in completely putting meat down. But what I would suggest is maybe cleaner meats, you know, and maybe less intake of meat, maybe do meat a couple of times a week. Right. And so we start with diet, because, you know, diet has a way of like healing the emotions in many ways, you know.
No, it's for sure. That's true. Very true.
Right. And I find that with a cleaner diet, a lot of like the weight starts to just sort of naturally come off, because you begin to just sort of eat differently than you always have. And, you know, that is something that I always stress is a cleaner diet. But what I also do, which I started doing this, I don't know if it wasn't planned. When I teach yoga, I always start out the practice in the form of debriefing of the day, right? So my practice is, when I teach a class, is usually never like 45 minutes long. It's like 15 minutes in the first part of the practice is debriefing, you know, from your day, because, you know, society has already created this like sort of environment where we as women, you know, we just deal, but we never ever like actually open up and say it all. I mean, some of us do with our girlfriends and things, but there are still some things that we don't tell them. But I think it's so important to be able to create that space, like create that loving, create that space of holding space. So I always thought it was like, allow me to hold space for you here in this moment before we go into any form of movement, because we want to just get it out. You know, you just want to debrief and get it out and allow yourself to just be in a moment of more freedom before you start your practice. I think that was important for over time for my clients, because they got so used to it and they were like, you know, I can get it out. My day, it was.
Yes. So you have them like yelling or making noises or just breathing, like
breathing, but if they want to talk about it, mainly if they want
so just talking.
Talk it out, you know, because either way it's going to come out, but I prefer to put it out on the table.
Yeah.
I do with the healing process, deal with it, accept that it happened, and then move on to the healing aspect of it, which is the movement, you know. And so it became sort of like this whole like debriefing of psychology in some way. I don't know. But anyway, it helped. It seemed to help and allow them to be able to become more free with their voice as well. You know, it exercised their throat chakras. So these are things that happen based on, you know, the whole idea of women like holding things in and understanding that anything that you were feeling in your body, because if you someone that follows me, you'll see certain posts that I always reference about how your emotions and past events in your life, past traumas, they hide inside your shoulders, or they're tucked inside of your wounds, and all of these issues that we are having within our bodies as women, it comes out in some form of fashion. You know, it comes out in illness, or it comes out in weight. You know, it comes out in many, many ways. And so if we're not ever dealing with them, hey, we're just piling it on, one trauma after another. And at some point, we break. We'll see it happen in every area of our lives, you know?
We see it on TV, in reality.
Right. Yeah. So, so, you know, I've just been someone that always believed that the way my healing process is I laid out on the table every trauma that I could remember that I experienced. And it was painful. However, it was freeing to do so. It's really painful, though, to lay out everything and deal with it and look at it and grieve each experience and then say, okay, now I'm ready to heal this. What's my next step, you know? Yeah. So, you know, I think that most people don't enjoy going through the healing experience because of the fact that, you know, they don't want to experience the discomfort and the hurt and things of that nature. But again, I'm a Scorpio, and I like change and transformation.
Just to delve in deep.
Yeah. So I'm always there. I'm not ever afraid to confront it with myself. I'm not ever afraid to do that. So, you know, my practices, they stem from debriefing of, you know, the emotions and traumas and, you know, whether it be with the body, with your relationships or whatever. I give you the opportunity to be able to share that and then going through your practice with the intention of healing it.
Yeah. So you practice 4 times a week. Now, is that with a class or just on your own?
That is on my own. I found many years ago, you know, of course, I can practice with a group of people and just sort of zone out and go into my own, you know, space. But, you know, it's not as easy for some people that are actually new to the practice, or, you know, just, you know, don't practice often, or whatever the case may be. But there is a certain sort of for spiritual connotation that comes along with the practice that I did not always feel when I went to practice in a studio. And so that is when I began to gravitate toward more of a home practice. In a home practice, you know, you are not looking at someone else to the right or the left of you. You know what I mean? And so I began to gain this notion about, you know, all of our bodies are different. You know, as women, we have different forms, we have different shapes. But in the practice, there's all this crazy alignment, you know, right? Trying to stick to what is pure. But my approach is trying to, well, not trying, but doing what comes natural to you. So before you actually move into a pose, you know, what would you do with your hips? Because you know what I'm saying? Because like we're, you know, even though I'm a tiny woman, I still have curves. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes, you do.
yeah, you know, most women, especially women of color, have curves.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're all about just the alignment and what is being shown to you from a commercial aspect, you know, you're all focused on the, like the lean aspect of it. But I wanted to embrace the whole body, embrace the whole woman. You know what I mean? I wanted to make it a more intimate environment for myself. And so that's why I leaned more toward a home practice. So yeah, my practice is at home. I actually have a home yoga studio, and I practice there in the studio alone. And then I also service private clients and small group classes there as well.
Wonderful. So for this woman who is just completely out of balance, McDonald's, divorce, fibroids, like um what kind of flow would you send her through? Like, do you, like each time you do a yoga practice, are you focusing on different organ systems, different, like you said, a lot of stuff is in the shoulders. Like, where would you start with her?
The hips.
Hips.
I open up each practice with the hips.
Okay.
And that's the difference between me and the quintessential yoga teacher. I do that based on my body. Like my practices, the way that I teach and the way that I practice based on the issues that I have in my practice. Tight hips, you know, but every woman deals with tight hips, you know, and because I focus on the core, the hips are within the core, you know, and if the hips are tight, then she's got all these pent up emotions there, you know, right there within the womb space. I start there. I open up the space within the hips, and then it allows me to be able to guide you through a practice that's more fluid, you know. I find that when I open my hips up, my practice is more fluid. I move easy. You know what I mean? You know how if you've ever been in a class and you feel like you're struggling going like, you know, stepping forward and going into a pose that allows you to maybe eventually work yourself into, you know, a runner's pose, or prepares you to lift up into, you know, warrior 2 or warrior 1. There's a struggle there that happens, you know what I mean? And I've seen it many times with just even beginner yogis. You know, you're not as flexible and things of that nature. But I find that when you open up the hips, whether it's man or woman, it allows for you to have a more fluid practice. Yeah, you don't struggle with movement as much.
So what kind of stuff do you think, is that just for women or everyone? Like,
No,
what?
I think that's for everyone, because when I think about like the core, it being the foundation, you know, men and women. I'll give you an example how it was explained to me. You know, as you mature in age, and it doesn't even have to be that, but when you step off of a curve, have you ever had those moments when you stepped off a curve or you stepped off of stairs and you like missed a step, you missed your step? Well, if your balance is off, and maybe I've known people to break their ankles doing it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't realize that if you don't have a strong core, your balance is completely off. You know, I noticed that if I don't, like, say for instance, if I take a break from practicing like 3 days, it's different than when I just continue practicing every 4 days, because you notice that you're not standing. There's like a little bit of shake there, which means that the core is slightly, you know, weak, right? So a strong core, no matter what it is that you're doing, is required. It allows for more movement, complete movements. You know, the flow of your movement is a lot flowish than when, you know, your core is not strong. So it's easier movement. Yeah.
And then after the hips, what's the next priority?
After the hips, you know, there's a lot of breathing that I do in my practice, and because I find that a combination of breathing, it actually allows me to not struggle as much in the practice as well. Like, say, for instance, if we are moving through a sequence that that allows for the heart to open, right? A lot of times when I'm giving like movement that opens the heart, allowing the shoulders to drop back away from the ears, there's this space here. You feel like this, how can I explain it? It's like a heart opening. It's like you can feel the endorphins opening up here in the chest. But you can really, truly feel it if you're focusing on the breath, right? And it allows you to be able to control the emotions, because that's one of the things that I love about, you know, heavily using the breath in my practice as well. But one of the breaths that I use in the beginning of practice is the fire breath of fire, which I'm sure you've heard of that form of breath. Yeah. Yeah. It heats stuff up. Yes. And I like to think of it as heating it up and burning it, getting rid of it. That's how I like to think of using the breath. So breathing a lot, and just allowing, you know, alignment, you know, allowing alignment after giving you the opportunity to become more natural in whatever movement it is or pose that we're doing. I think it's really important for women to not get caught up on whether they're doing it right in the beginning. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because it's away from the intimacy of the body, you know? We can still focus on the alignment, but let's make sure that you are comfortable within your own body, because the idea is that the practice is yours. It's no one else's, it's yours. It's a personal practice. And we're not in competition with anyone. You know, no one can see you. You're just here with yourself, you know, like you're at home in the mirror. You wake up with yourself, you go to bed with yourself, that sort of a thing, you know. So that's the approach to the practice. But for the most part, opening the hips, and after opening the hips, the legs, because if we're still focusing on the core, you know.
So what is the core for those who don't understand what the core is? What is the core of your body?
The core really is the core is the middle, but the legs are what holds up the core, you know, and the feet. So if right after coming out of the hips, we go into more of a salutation. So I'm sure that many of you have experienced or know what sun salutations are. So the whole movement with sun salutations, like say for instance, when you're in Tadasana, which is, you know, standing pose. The pose seems really, really easy, but in all reality, there's a lot going on in the pose. So we're starting with the feet. Let's say with the feet. The feet are your foundation. They are what's going to help you sustain you and help you get through your practice. So you want to access all of the meridians within the feet, you know? So it's sort of like, you know, acupuncture, you know, but you want to access all of the meridians within the feet, and you're utilizing them in such a way where you are standing powerful, but allowing it to be the major part of your foundation, which is a process of tightening of the thighs, lifting of the butt, tightening of the belly, opening the shoulders back. You know, there's a multitude of things that are going on in the practice, but being able to do that and tap into that, the whole sensation of, the process of doing that before moving into another pose. So that is what I do in terms of, moving into sun salutations and from the hip opening poses. It's a process of warming the body up before you get to the very core of the practice. So by the time you get to the core of the practice, you're like at the peak. You're at the peak. And so you stay at the peak for a little bit, and then we come back down, But we do that in such a way that you don't leave the practice feeling like you haven't nurtured yourself, I think that there's a level of intensity that involves movement that the body should actually feel, where we're shocking the body. And you actually feel like, there's a lot more going on. We're tricking the muscles and the ligaments, it's a whole combination of many bodily functions that need to be taking place, as your form of movement. It's partly why I introduced something else into my practice. My way of life is that I wanted to shock the body. And also, women like Halle Berry is she's such a damn inspiration for me. So lean, strong, but feminine,
Yeah, definitely. I was going to ask you, what does a yogi eat daily? Like from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, what does a yogi eat daily?
Well, this yogi, I love like fruit, and I do green smoothies a lot. Sometimes when I want something heavier, which is that the time of month, when it's that time of month when my moon is coming, I usually want something heavier, and that probably is because I'm wanting that whole sort of more nurturing feeling. But yeah, I usually do like tons of fruit, and I usually do smoothies, depending on where I am in my month, because one of the things that I stress about women as they take on a lifestyle of wellness is know your body, know her, and in order to know her, you have to embrace where she is now, even if you don't like where she is now. That's the woman that you are right now. So we can look in the mirror and think that we're still looking at that woman that we saw 10 years ago. Some of us do that.
Yeah.
And but knowing your body so well that you're able to give it what it needs, whether it be food or whatever sort of movement it is that it's the desire. So I usually whatever the body wants, and usually whatever the body wants is, greens, green stuff.
Yeah.
Fruit, bananas are my favorite.
Love bananas.
It's like my go-to like breakfast. So I always keep bananas at my house, and I like them firm. So I love firm bananas. I don't like mushy ones, and firm.
What in my mind?
Firm feel more hearty, right? They feel more hearty. Yeah.
And more of a starch instead of a less sugar, I guess. Less sugar. So you should like plantain.
Right. Yeah. Which I can't always find plantains, but yeah. So my go-to is fruit. I love bananas most of all. Yeah, fruit. I'll top it off with a cup of tea. Green tea, and one of my weaknesses is coffee. I love coffee. It's not something that I want to give up, nor am I trying to give up. I think we all have like our guilty pleasures, and so coffee is my guilty pleasure. So, but what I do,
be guilty about it. You don't even have to be guilty about it.
Yeah. But water, I do a ton of water. in the mornings. Yeah, ton of water, ton of water, especially when I first wake up, you know, the whole warm water with lemon, do that, because it definitely gets me to moving, you know, uplifts spirits and all.
ShoShan, what is something that, what can you eat that is pretty awful if you want to really be able to perform in yoga? Like, what's an awful thing to eat?
An awful thing to eat.
Yeah.
You know, it's been many, many years ago, because when I first started the practice, I didn't change my diet, you know? Anything heavy. I mean, I can't say anything specific, but I will say anything heavy, because the rule of thumb is don't eat really anything heavy like 30 minutes before it's time for you to practice.
Okay.
Because otherwise, it doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel good. You feel like your stomach is swimming and your head is swimming, and you just don't feel good. Yeah. So it's just been a really long time. I like to practice mostly on an empty stomach too, though. Mm-hmm. I get more out of my practice when I do it that way. But yeah, but just anything heavy, just, I wouldn't suggest eating anything 30 minutes before you practice. Your body doesn't have time to digest it. So, you know.
So one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, two more questions actually.
Yeah.
So there is so much yoga going on right now in the world, and it's really exciting.
Yeah.
So how does someone that has never attempted yoga, like, where do they start? There's people on Instagram and poses, like, there's like so much out there about yoga. Like, where do you start? It seems all overwhelming and confusing. And
what I would suggest is stop looking at yoga porn. That's what I call
it. Yoga porn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's deceiving.
Yeah.
And we as women already have pent up issues about our bodies anyways. The quintessential yogi that you see doing a lot of those poses so easily, or just these, you know, difficult poses, a lot of them are dancers, and we're not told that. You're not told that. A lot of them are dancers. A lot of them are younger, okay, and more flexible just anyways. Yeah. But stop looking at yoga porn. Stop it. Stop it. Stop inspiring to do this pose. You know what I mean? Because the pose, you may never look like they look in the pose.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Our bodies are all different. And I think gain the practice because you want to gain the practice for your own personal lifestyle experience. You know what I mean? Like, I despise the whole approach from a fad aspect. You know what I mean? I think that if you are truly interested in adapting, also find someone that you're extremely comfortable with in terms of the teaching aspect of it, right? Someone that pays really close attention to things like asking you questions if you're on your moon. And if you're on your moon, then I'm going to know to adjust the way that I teach the practice based on respecting your body where it is in the moment, you know? So choosing someone that you're extremely comfortable with in the practice and allowing them to guide you, but, you know, you have like a mental, spiritual sort of connection to the way they teach and how they motivate you through teaching and how they allow you to focus on your body, your purpose, your intention, all of those beautiful things that comes along with, you know, being you and who you are as a person. You know, anyone that allows you to be that in your practice, I suggest that you lean more toward that. I know that it's a little sort of challenging to find that sort of experience, but even as it relates to if you want to start at home, still, if you want to start at home and you have someone that maybe you are taking with online, make sure that you connect with them. You know, if you have some form of connection with them, that's, for me, that's really what's important. Before you
Amber Larice Johnson has a question. Do you see her question?
And what's the question?
Oh, do you see it on the screen?
Listen, I can't. Can you read it to me?
What if you're practicing on your own?
What if you're practicing on your own? If you're practicing on your own, one of the beauties about establishing a personal practice is knowing your body well enough that you know certain poses that you can focus on in the beginning. And, you know, go get books, you know, go to workshops. There's nothing wrong with like going to a workshop, gathering your information, and then coming back home and utilizing it in your practice. I do that as well, like online. I don't have like someone that I just specifically go to. There's a couple of different women that I absolutely love, and they all teach something that I am interested in. But I take a little bit from there and make it my own in terms of how I practice and how it helps me. So, so my suggestion is, you know, do workshops, go to some workshops, and whether they be online or offline, go onto YouTube. There may be some teachers there that may cater to, you know, what it is that your body wants and desires more. Me, I lean toward more yogis like Shiva Ray and Faith Hunter. Right now, those are the only two that like my go-to women in terms of how I like the way that they teach and focus on the body, but they also focus on, you know, being you in the practice, making sure that you're shining through the practice, you know. They focus on the alignment, but there's so much more of the spiritual, sort of soulful, feminine aspect of what, because I love a more feminine practice. And you know, the older we get as women, we want to lean towards more, you know, bringing out the feminine attributes of who we are as women. Yeah. So even books and things of that nature, but, you know, there's a couple of different things that you can do.
Okay, so I'm asking all of my Masters of Movement to issue a 3-day challenge. So I would like you to prescribe a challenge for our viewers.
3-day challenge. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I like to do when I rise here in when I'm home and I'm not like traveling or anything, but one of the things that I love to do is right when I wake up in the morning is I close my eyes. I sit up in my bed, close my eyes, and center and breathe for about 10 minutes. I do that because it allows me to be able to sort of spring out of bed a little more, you know, with a little bit more clarity about the day. And it also is a form of intimacy with myself as a woman. So create a space of intimacy at the beginning of the day when you wake up. First 15 to 10 minutes a day, develop a space of intimacy, whether that be through breathing, chanting, whatever the case may be. Do that. You'll find that the more intimate moments that you have with your body, the more you'll get to know your body. The more you get to know the emotions and things of that nature that you have. It's a form of self-love. I'm all about, you know, creating a space for more self-love as I move through my life and move through this world. Self-love is based on every decision that I make in life now. Every decision. If it does not fan well, or for me making this decision based out of self-love, then let's not make it. Let's find another way that it works for me, you know, not just for someone else. So, yeah. So moments of intimacy, 3 days.
3 days.
Of creating moments of intimacy with yourself.
And I have on screen your website, just in case anybody wants some more of your goodness. Visit your domain.
SheOwns.net. And very soon, I will be debuting my virtual yoga studio. So you'll be able to go on and practice with me in either live practices from home, or you'll be able to access pre-recorded videos of practices that you can access at home and do on either a daily or, you know, every other day, or just whenever you feel like it. And there'll be face yoga, body yoga.
I love it.
You know, there'll be information about herbs and things of that nature that we can gain and utilize within our daily lives as women, because the body is ever changing. And I'm sure that one time or another, we all feel like foreign within the body. So there'll be all kinds of goodies and guests that I'll have come on.
Goodies and guests.
Yes, yes, yes. And just a multitude of information that you as women will be able to continue to utilize in your daily life. Anything that helps you to accept and embrace the phase of womanism that you're in the moment. Because that's so important. So, so important to love where you are in the moment as a woman and still give yourself what you need. That's the idea, is to maintain giving your body always what it needs.
All right. So is anyone, I'm up to the challenge. So I'm in. How about everyone else that's on? Is that Amber, Tracy? Who else is on here? Let us know if you're down. Candace, Santete, Quentin, Charlene, Jan, let us know if you're down with the challenge that Miss Yogii gave us. I'm down.
Yes.
I will report back.
Awesome. And if you have questions that you didn't ask, go ahead and put them in the chat box and I'll log on and answer whatever questions you might have. If you want to reach out and don't want to actually ask your question publicly, you can always inbox me, or you can email me at shoshanyogi.gmail.com.
All right. So in, Santete's in. All right, cool. So we're going to have those 10 to 15 minute moments of intimacy, first day breathing. I love first day breathing. I love that.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, thank you. Is there anything else that's burning you to share for people to get up, get up, get up, get up for spring? Get up.
Yes. Anyway, this whole like sunniness puts you in a whole different atmosphere, vibe. About movement. For me, it does. It like upped the ante for me, you know, from what I was already doing, but it upped the ante. So, so, you know, get out, get out. If you're a walker, this is a beautiful time to definitely add some form of movement. If walking is your thing, go out to the park and walk and enjoy and take in Mama Earth.
Yes. Well, I'm headed out to because the Double Stitch twins told us to walk 20 minutes a day. So I'm on my way out right after I click end broadcast. I'm going out. So
yay.
Thank you so much. This has been such a long time in coming. I've wanted to share you with my community for a while. So thank you so much. We don't go this long, but you just had so much to share. So thank you all for hanging in with us.
You're so, so welcome. Thank you for having me. I missed your energy so, so much. So glad we finally got a chance to connect.
And I can't wait till you get your virtual studio up. I'll be right there with you.
I can't either. I'm going through a few, technical issues, but once I work them out.
Yeah, well, let me know if you need any help.
Thank you, my love.
All right.
Okay. Bye, guys. Thank you for having me.
Hey, go ahead, ShoShan. Even moves like water. gorgeous. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Amazing, amazing time as always. Your energy is so beautiful. I got my Akua fix.
Well, it's so nice to see you live. I never see you live.
I know. I tell you, I've gone through like this whole rebranding thing, and I don't know. I've been in a hermit mode for a little bit. You know how when you go into hermit mode, it's kind of, if you stay in there too long, it takes some time to ease back out of it, you know. But a lot of
springtime.
Right. It's springtime. A lot of good ideas and creative inspiration happened there. So yeah, I'm back in stride.
All right, let's go. Well, I'm about to go walk.
All right.
We do down Johannesburg.
Bye, love.
And everybody starts to move as soon as